Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the WICR IC Gales Spotlight Update. I'm your host, Ian Sachs. Today, I am joined for the final episode of the semester by none other than the head athletic trainer, Sam DeRosa. Sam, thank you for coming on the show with me today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
And now, Sam, take us through. You work. You and your department work with all 21 varsity athletics teams. Just take me through, say, a typical game day and say non-game day operations of the Iona Sports Medicine Department.
Sure. I'll start with non-game day operations because there seems to be a lot of those. There's four of us all together on our staff. That's including me. And we, like you said before, we have to take care of all of our sports that are varsity sports. We have all the athletes come in that need to get rehabilitation or get evaluated. We have to go by a schedule. So let's take the fall semester where we have women's soccer starting at 7, practicing. You probably see them out there on the field. We have to be here about 6 a.m. It's also volleyball there. So two of us come in at 6 and leave somewhere around 6 p.m. at night. Covering things, getting things ready for the practice, getting the student athlete ready for the practice if they need to get taped or rehabilitation or something just to get them ready to go for practice. We'll be doing that. And then after practice, take care of whatever ice needs they might need, or ice and stim, which is modality, e-stim. So that's the morning part, and then we have the other practices that come in later in the day, and they go until usually the last one gets out of there about 6, but two of the other athletic trainers come in a little later and they'll finish up the day with that. There's a lot of get ready. We try to do a lot of the get ready stuff the night before because this way it saves you from doing it so early in the morning. And so it all becomes, a timeline of preparation, just being prepared. Just like, when you know you have an exam and you should be studying, you try to prepare ahead of time, Now, game day is a different story, obviously we don't play games at 6 o'clock in the morning, although men's basketball played one at 7, but that's an outlier. So let's take a men's basketball game, for instance, that starts at 7. They'll have a walkthrough somewhere around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Walkthrough is just, let's go through the plays that we want to run. Let's go through the defense that we want to use, and so that usually lasts about an hour. So we'll get there maybe around noon, do some treatments before. They'll do their pregame. We'll also have to set up, courtside set up, visiting locker room set up, men's home locker room, and also for the referees, we do a little bit for them. So that starts, around 12 in the afternoon. So, you work on it sporadically through the afternoon, and then the players will have to be on the court about 6, so they'll come in around 5 to do whatever kind of treatments they need and taping. Then the game begins at 7, usually lasts about 2 hours, and then it's time to take care of them after the game. Seems like when there's it depends on whether you win or lose, how many people you're going to take care of, It seems like when they win, they just want to go and do whatever they want to do, and not sulk in the training room. And then it's cleanup, so I usually get out of there somewhere around an hour and a half after the game to 2 hours after the game. So it's a long day, but it goes by very quickly.
So now, you usually have someone from your staff going with the team when they travel, right?
That's correct. Now that we have 4 staff members, and that started not too long ago. That started, I want to say the first time we had 4, maybe 07, might have been the first time we had 4 staff members, and it really helps out, and now we dropped football, and I think 08 was our last season, and now it allows us to travel more with the other teams, such as volleyball, women's soccer, men's soccer, and even in the spring, because we had spring football, we had to have people here taking care of that. So now softball, baseball, and women's lacrosse. They're the in-season sports in the spring, and they get an athletic trainer. We do have a tight period when we still have men's and women's basketball going on, and then we have our spring seasons come in, and our non-traditionals also are in there. That non-traditional means that they're just out of season, but they're still practicing, such as in the spring, men's and women's soccer and volleyball. They're still practicing, but it's called a non-traditional season. We have a tough time with four of us covering all of that, and we're actually planning our schedule out for the spring. So we were just looking at that, and there's a part where the end of March, or I should say the middle part of March, when we're at the MAC tournament for men's and women's basketball, softball's going, they're playing games, baseball's playing games, and lacrosse. So we're trying to figure all that out to make sure we have coverage on for all of those sports and all of their contests.
So, what do you do, say, when you do have a
Conflicts?
conflict
Mm-hmm.
like that?
Sometimes we actually have to leave somebody behind and have a team travel without a trainer, and we'll contact the host team and what we call reciprocal coverage. They do it to us, we do it to them. Reciprocal. So that'll take place every once in a while. We have a conflict, or if we can, and it works out, we can hire what we call a per diem athletic trainer. Somebody that's a certified athletic trainer that's in the area that is able to not work that day, let's say where they are, and they can help us out. And we have to do that once in a while.
So, now, yeah, what would you say? You mentioned football earlier in the
Mhm.
show. How much of a percentage would you say football took up of your time?
You know,
And yeah.
That's a very good question, and I can finish that for you. I can finish your question because it really did take up a lot of our time. It's a high impact, sport, risk sport, high risk sport. So, obviously, a lot of those people, or those student athletes, a lot of them were injured and needed our care. Um, so this was really interesting. We have 4 treatment tables, and every time you would look back at those treatment tables, there was a football player on there. That meant men's soccer, women's soccer, the other sports just couldn't come in, and they kind of knew that. They almost knew that, and they would just not show up. They wouldn't even think about asking, "Can you help me?" It was only after we dropped football, that was, I think it was '08, November, just around Thanksgiving time, when we came back for the spring semester that '09 year. I remember just looking back there, and just every one of those treatment tables, there was a female athlete on it. And I've never had that before. I never saw that. That was new, because now they knew they could come in and get treatment. So, yes, it's sad that we had to drop football. It's just, it's a hard, University of Alabama, Birmingham, they just dropped it the other day. So these bigger schools, Hofstra dropped it a few years back, and they have guys actually in the NFL. It's a hard sport to run today. It really is. So it was a hard decision for us to make, but sometimes you have to make hard decisions in life. And I think for the welfare of all of the other 350 student athletes that we have, it actually helped them.
Now, how often would you say that you have an athlete that might be nursing an injury but won't come to you? Does that happen
Yes.
that often?
Oh, yeah, it happens. And then sometimes it's too late. In other words, they tried to play through, tried to play through, tried to play through, and then it gets to the point where, let's just use an example. It might be something with a bone called a stress fracture. Had they come to us sooner, we, were able to treat that. Obviously, the student would have had to stop playing, but it might have been for a short period of time that they needed to stop playing and then go back to playing. Now they not rested. Now they just went through that, and now they have a full-blown stress fracture where it was just maybe a stress reaction. Now it's a full-blown fracture, and now they're out for the rest of the season. So that does happen, where they try to, really conceal these things. And a lot of times if they're not limping, we really don't know if there's anything wrong, obviously. We just can't plug, like there's no USB port on a human being that you could, plug something in and find out a diagnosis. So that does happen every once in a while. And that makes it hard for us too, because we try to communicate with all of our coaches that, we take care of through an injury report every night. so the coach knows what to expect the next day for practice. You know, is this person available? You know, so what, you know, so they know their how to set up their practices based on the people that are going to be there and able to and are listed able.
So now, of these three, which would you say happens the majority of the time, where a player will voluntarily come into your office and say, "Hey, can you check this out for me?" A coach comes in and says, I don't think this player is quite right, or you guys, notice something and say, why don't we take a look at this specific player?
Oh, definitely the first one. We have plenty of student athletes coming in. You know, my foot's bothering me, my ankle's bothering me, my knee, my shoulder, whatever it might be. That's definitely 99% of the time. Only once in a while will a coach come in and say, this guy just or this gal is just not up to what they used to be, and then you have that, the person that conceals an injury every once in a while. So, but it's 99% of the time somebody's going to come in to you and say this is not right.
Again, Ian Sachs here on the Iona Athletic Spotlight interview, joined today by Sam DeRosa, the head athletic trainer. Sam, you've been at Iona and now in your 29th year here at the college, and what would you say have been some of your favorite memories working on the sidelines?
Okay. Well, first, it's Brian Byers got to update that bio because it's actually I'm on my 31st year. But memories, there was a guy that worked here years ago named J.B. Bono, and he and I worked together for many years. He was the longtime head athletic trainer here, and just a joy to be around. What's nice is, we've been on the road with men's basketball. We were in North Carolina and also North Texas, and then those both schools that we played, we actually have had former football players and a basketball player come to the game and to see them again, and just it's a really nice feeling that they still really care about the school and remember the things that you did for them. That's nice. But going back to your question, it's just there's a lot of good memories, of winning. In 1993 with football, we won the first. That was when the first MAC football league was around, and we won that. And that was a great time. There was a great head coach there, Harold Crocker. Just a bunch of great guys on the team. Of course, the basketball is going into the NCAA's, and that's a lot of fun all the time. Winning a MAC championship, especially when you're up at Siena in front of like 8,000 of their fans, and maybe we have 200 to 300. It's great. It's like Kurt Schilling, and I'm a big Yankee fan. When he said there's nothing better than shutting down 50,000 fans, New York Yankee fans. It's nothing better than shutting down like 8,000 screaming Siena fans to beat them up at their place for for the championship there.
Yeah, you mentioned J.B. Bono, the longtime assistant.
No, head.
Head.
Yeah.
You were his assistant.
Yes.
My bad, getting the terms mixed up
That's
there.
okay.
You took over for him as the head trainer in 1999. What was that transition like, and how was it with him, staying on as trainer emeritus?
He took that very hard. And this was something, being an athletic trainer and being a head athletic trainer here was his life. I think in the beginning he just saw it as, they're writing me off here. They're trying to push me out of the door. So he really met that with a lot of resistance. And it was hard for us, for a short period of time, a few months. But then I think he saw that this was okay. It really didn't change anything. And I was trying to be, very aware of not stepping or encroaching on him, So he then began to accept that, and it was a great relationship after that point. There was really a great relationship.
So now you're entering men's basketball. Would you say that is this year, or right now, your favorite sport, and really which sports are you more specifically geared to, and how does it work with the program?
Okay, so there's 4 of us, and we try to cover as much as we can with only 4 people. Again, we have about 350 student athletes. Obviously, the golf team really doesn't need somebody to travel with them. We have women's rowing, I believe that's varsity sport. We don't travel with them. But then we have a high-ranking men's and women's cross-country program, but we just don't have the means, the manpower to actually send and cover, because they go away and they go, like Wisconsin, they were just at the Nationals. We just don't have the manpower to do that. So we have to break this up. So we try to go with really what teams need the most. So men's soccer, women's soccer needed in the fall. So we have somebody covering men's soccer, and then in the spring, that person that covers men's soccer will cover baseball. Women's soccer is covered by a young lady that's been with me. This is her 5th year with me. Thank God she stayed this long, because we do have a big turnaround. Leah Dior. And just a side note, her grandfather was actually the one that designed the Major League Baseball logo that's been around since like 1969 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but she'll cover women's soccer, and then in the spring she'll cover softball. I'll do men's basketball that really goes all year round. And then there's another young lady, Katie, she'll do women's basketball. They really go 12 months a year. And then in the spring, I'll switch over, once basketball's done, to women's lacrosse. And then Katie will take care of the non-traditional seasons, covering their practices and when they have home contests here in the non-traditional season.
Wow. So you guys really have it very well organized for how hectic it could be, having all 21 teams and really breaking it down very systematically.
Yeah, we meet every day for 5 minutes or so to go over the next day's schedule, to make sure that swimming's got somebody to cover. Here, there's a lot of part-time coaches, so diving has a part-time coach, and so we have to make sure that we can cover his practice that might be 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. So there's a part in the day that we really have to stop and say, okay, what do we have to cover tomorrow, and make sure we have everything covered, And then I mentioned before, getting everything ready the night before, and during that meeting we can know what we have to get ready for the next day's practices and games.
Well, Sam, I know with the basketball season being in full gear now, you are a very busy man. I'm going to let you get back to your to your training facility in Hines. And Sam, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And again, this was Sam DeRosa joining me, Ian Sachs, on the Iona Athletics Spotlight interview. I will be back on the air in just a few minutes with Sports on the Fly. Stay tuned.
Celebrate the USFL's 25th anniversary with this fantastic collection